Hello, everybody. My name is Naya, and I'm the Black female engineer. I provide content for new and aspiring software engineers. And today, I wanted to just talk a little bit more about my therapy journey. It's something I have mentioned in past videos that I've been going to therapy for a couple of months now. And yeah, I just wanted to just sit down and talk to you all about how I got here, how I chose my therapist, and if you're looking into therapy, just what you may expect in the process. So yeah, let's get to it. So I've been wanting to get a therapist for a long time, like since I was a kid. I remember asking my mom, like, Mom, can I have a therapist? Can I go see a therapist? Because I just knew that there were some things that I wanted to actually talk through with a professional. I have typically, for a long time, maybe not always, but for a very long time, had some anxiety problems or issues, or just, my life has just been harder because of my anxiety levels at times. And so as a kid, I knew that, like, this is not this is not it. And so I remember asking way back when for one, but ended up not getting one. And come college, I thought about it a lot more, especially with college, where there's so much change happening all at once. All of a sudden, you're in this whole new location. Your family's nowhere to be found. You have all these new friends forming. It's just so much that I knew specifically in college. I was like, shoot, I need somebody to sit down with. But because I'm a college student, so I'm still on my parents' insurance at the time, I was like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want them to know. I don't want them to know that I'm going to a therapist. So I come from a Zimbabwean background. I was born in Zimbabwe. And so there tends to be that thought of, oh, they're going to see a therapist? Okay, what's cuckoo? Like, there tends to be that type of sentiment around the idea of therapy. And so I just didn't want to bring my parents into it. And I also didn't just in general want them to ever ask me about therapy, how it's going, or I know it's terrible. I just wanted it to just be a me thing, all to myself, and that was that. And so throughout college, even though I really, really constantly thought about it, I decided to wait and was like, you know what, I'll wait until I have a job. That way I can pay for it myself, and I will be on the job's insurance, will be off my parents, and they just will never know. Now fast forward to fall of last year, so fall of 2020, I started having a bit more income and more flexibility with my income. I got my own apartment. I was really just setting up the building blocks of my life, and I have a friend of mine who sees a therapist, and she's very open with it. And I asked her how it was going, and she had just switched to a therapist who happened to be a Black woman. And so when she said this, I was like, oh, like, word? I was like, oh wow, okay, can I get her information? Do you mind if I get her information? And how is she? First, how is she? Have you liked your sessions? And yeah, do you mind if I get her contact? And all in all, she was like, no, it's been good so far. She enjoyed the experience. And so I ended up contacting that therapist that either that day or just a few days after. Now, and this is what was very rough, was because I would have been, considered, a new patient. It took a very long time for me to actually get to see her in person. So my thing with therapy, and I think many people can share the same feelings I do, is for me, one of the hardest parts is finding somebody. Not in terms of the search itself, but the trial and error of it, of okay, so I'm going to have this one session and we'll see if it's a match, and if it's not, then I have another session that's the exact same, of me spilling my guts out all over again, seeing if they're a good fit. If it's not, then I do another, and it's just this it's honestly just not a fun process because you feel like you're going nowhere. You've done 5 sessions and you're in the exact same place as you were a month ago because it's the same thing over and over again because it's a new person. It's like dating, like it's a new person. They know nothing about you. They need to hear your story over and over again. And so that can be just very emotionally tolling. And so I really did not want to do that. So when my friend said she had, been seeing this Black female therapist, I was like, bet, say no more. And I really just hopped on that. Now, I mentioned it took about 6 weeks for me to see her for the first time. That's really because, and I didn't know this, maybe not every therapist is the same in this regard, but from my understanding, what will happen is, therapists or mental health, specialists, providers, counselors, etc. They have a certain schedule based around their quote unquote regulars. Then they decide how often to take in new people. And so if a counselor, therapist, specialist has, let's say, a full 8-hour schedule built out and they really don't want to take in new people, it could be a very, very long time before you get to actually see them for the first time. Then when you finally get that first appointment with your therapist and you see that you would like to be a part of their regular rotation, that's when you can see them kind of anywhere, anytime you want. Every day, and maybe every day, but every week, every other week, twice a week, etc. It's a lot easier to build those types of schedules. And so that's why it took such a long time for me to have just that first appointment with my therapist. Okay, so something about me is I do not like being new at something. And it's not that I don't like learning new things or trying new things out. I don't like being a beginner in the sense that I have to train for this thing. For example, training weeks. Oh my gosh. Training for a job being the first orientation or training week, I cannot stand it because I just want to get to the work. You know what I mean? I remember when I was learning how to play guitar, I hated just me being bad at it because it means if I like a song, I can't just go straight in and learn it right away. I have to get through all of these other nooks and crannies to even get to that point. Same thing with therapy. There's about 1 to 3 weeks where you're not even getting into the really main biscuits and gravy of why you're here and everything you want to talk about and your childhood traumas and things like that. You're kind of just getting to know one another, or they're trying to just know about you. My first session with my therapist, they had a questionnaire that they went through and we talked through the different topics in that questionnaire. So for example, one of the questionnaire questions could be, I suffer from abandonment. Yes, no, sometimes. And then the next question can be, I have a good relationship with my parents. Yes, no, sometimes. So, and of course there's a lot heavier questions that will be in that questionnaire. I just didn't want to bring those up here. But yes, it's really more about setting the stage, laying that foundation so that they also know as a professional really what they would like to tackle first to make sure that you're okay, to make sure that you're safe. And so that was the first 1, 2, 3. For me personally, it was the first 2 sessions where it was just going through this questionnaire. And so I didn't like that at all. I understand it's necessary. Please believe me, I understand it's necessary. I just didn't like it because for me to be here, there's things I need to talk about so badly with you. And so I remember making like a mental note of, you know what, the next time I, let's say, switch therapists or go through this situation again, I want to book like three sessions in just 1 week. That way we can just get it all over with and I'm not a month in for the first time me telling you about my problems. And yeah, it's been a month. And so I made that mental note saying, you know what, next time if I can, I'm going to just jam pack all of this prerequisite questioning as much as I can so that we get to the real nooks of everything as soon as possible. So I mentioned that for the longest time, I didn't want to tell my parents that I was seeking the help of mental health professionals. And for the first couple of sessions, about 3 sessions, I paid them all out of pocket, which for me, it was almost $200 per session. And after the 3rd session, I was like, Naya, I was a finance major. Naya, this is not the financially responsible thing to do. Even if you make $1 million, if you can avoid spending something by just saying I have insurance and saying here's my insurance card or just anything, do it, you know? And so after that third session, I was like, nah, this is not a responsible way to go. Like, you're trying to build your savings, you're trying to do X, Y, and Z. Don't keep doing this. I was willing to budget that money out for this, but I was like, why? You have insurance, you have the ability to not be paying this much. And so I sat down and was like, okay, let me talk to my mother and tell her that I'm seeking, mental health assistance, and I am going to be doing this for the, next, 100 years of my life. And if you see a charge to the insurance, 'tis I, and that is why. So yeah, I called my mom up and I was very matter of fact with it, because I didn't want any questions. I didn't want any comments even. I was like, oh yeah, and by the way, I started seeing a therapist, so if you see a charge, that's me. So how was your Sunday? I left no room. And so since then, that was really it, to be honest. And I'm glad I did that for, I'm talking about mental health, but I also care about financial well-being as well. And so I am glad I did that for that. But I'm disappointed that it took even 3 sessions for me to be like, Naya, this is your mental health. If you had sprained your ankle, you wouldn't be like, oh, I don't want it to show. But yeah, told my mom, hung up the phone, and now I pay $30 per session. And it's different depending on your insurance. That's my, the copay is $30. Some people, it could be $50, it could be $60, it could be none. It could also be none. And it also can depend on how often you go. And so for me, I go once per week. I've been going for about 6 months now. And I actually called the insurance and asked them, let's say hypothetically I wanted to go every single day of the week. Would it still stay at 30, or is it a $30 copay as long as you don't exceed, let's say, 6 sessions a month? And so that can also be different depending on your insurance. And so if you don't know, or if you think you would want more frequent visits, then I highly recommend just calling and asking. Calling and asking my insurance actually didn't take long. I've had longer calls with credit card companies over, stupid charges on my cards than I did with the insurance people, asking them about the therapy sessions. So don't think it has to be this crazy half-day gone thing. It was a pretty quick call, maybe like 5 to 10 minutes. And so yeah, I've been going for about 6 months now. Let's see, December. Yeah, I've been going for about 6 months now. And I personally think it has started. I think it is just now starting to help. For the first maybe 3 months, I don't think I saw much of a difference in me or in my mental well-being. And I know that's really odd to say, but I'm just now starting to see the everyday impact it has, where let's say I'm getting stressed out, and then I remember something, my therapist said, or I'm planning out my future, and I am less anxious about it because I know that this is the mentality I'm having now rather than what it has been in the past. And so it did take a long time, because even after your first 1 to 3 intro sessions, you're still learning a lot about each other. You're still getting your groove together, and it takes time to get to that level of comfort of sitting down. And now I sit down like, girl, you won't believe. So it's like things like that. I don't say that, but I'm just saying I'm now in a place where I'm much more comfortable with them, where I can just be like, yo, you won't believe the things that just happened. One thing I also had to be patient about is not letting my expectations of what therapy would be like, or what I would get from my therapist, overshadow the experience itself. And so what I mean by that is, there would be times where I share something, and I'm an overthinker, and so I would share something and I'd be annoyed if they didn't respond with, oh well, why do you feel that way, or no, how about we go into deeper, or what do you think, da da da. And they wouldn't ask those typical therapist-y questions, because that was just what I imagined, and so I would get kind of annoyed of like, oh, okay, he's not gonna ask, okay, let me just tell her, or things like that. But especially again for the first few months, you're still trying to get a groove together. A lot of times they may just want to just listen to you and see how you tell stories, how you recount events, how you speak about yourself and others, and really just taking that in, because they need to know the best way to guide you. Not everything works for everybody. Like yelling at one person may work, but yelling at me, no. So keep that in mind if you are like me, who has been thinking about it for a while and maybe an overthinker. If your expectation for the sessions don't match what it is actually, don't put too much thought into that, especially if you're new. If you're new, they really may just be trying to get to know you and understand how best to guide you. Because now that it's 6 months in, now I'll kind of be stopped in my tracks a little bit of like, oh, okay, get with the hard questions. I see you. Okay. So keep that in mind as well. But yeah, I think I'm gonna stop it there before I start rambling and start saying, things off the wall and whatnot. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. It helps me out a lot. Like and comment if you liked it. And no, I will see you all later. Bye.